David King, good morning to you, and you can get us underway.
Cornsey, good morning to you and everybody out there. I know that Tommy Morris has backed over a story that Ralphie backed over of Jay Clark's.
Yes.
So it's a domino on domino. But I still think it's a relevant topic to talk about. And the reason why we bring up the coaching discussion, or the assistant coaching discussion more specifically, is we are losing too many star factor past players or former players from our game. And they are seeking other options because it's financially more rewarding for them to either go into the media or go into business, to get out of football totally. And I talk about this, Cornsey, because we're going to be talking about who's going down to Tasmania in the near future. And the AFL desperately needs some big names down there, not just to run the show as the main man. They need the support crew as well, whether it be, and we've talked about Buckley handing over.
You love a good pit crew.
I love the pit crew.
Yeah.
I do love the pit crew.
Yeah.
Pendlebury, Selwood, these sorts of guys, we can't lose them to the game.
Koch and Hodge, they're everywhere.
Exactly. Oh, you're making up with Koch.
I think you'd be an excellent assistant coach. I know he's doing some stuff and some in the leadership space, but
so how do we do it?
Well, I'll pay them more.
Yeah, well, is it as simple as just up the ante there, or
so
can you have one outside the salary cap? Can you have a soft cap, I should say? Can you get special exemptions to keep some of these guys in?
The AFL prints money, right? Like the AFL actually essentially prints money. They're in a really fortunate position that they profit a lot every single year. Now, 10% of that money goes back to grassroots footy, as it should. But the AFL is a revenue goldmine. And to listen to that story that Jay Clark first wrote and has been followed up on since, the numbers suggest that an average AFL senior coach earns $750,000 a year, and the average assistant coach earns $183,000 a year. That is so far unders, it is not funny. And people listening to us earning the average wage, I get it, going, well, that's a lot of money. It is. But factor in everything that these guys go through and the lack of job security around what they do and what they are put through. An average assistant coach, so if you said to me, what for the work that they do and the importance of their role at a major football club for an organisation that prints money, they should be earning $350, $400 average. That should be the average. And the good ones might get $600 and the inexperienced ones might get $350, $400, but the average should be about that. And a senior coach, there's no way they should be getting out of bed for anything under sort of $1.2 million. And the best ones should be getting closer to $2 million.
Yeah, the bonus structure's got to be higher for playing, making finals, making grand finals, winning grand finals. But their work-life balance is lost. What we needed to become is a race for 8 potential opportunities by 20 players leaving the game. We need the squeeze. We need them to be fighting each other for these roles rather than we've got 8 vacancies and the same names are getting spun around again.
Yeah, so the premise of the first story that Jay Clark wrote, which we spoke about, was that no one wanted the West Coast job. And eventually they got McWalter, and we think he's going to do a really good job and he's really impressive. But it's the West Coast Eagles. And Adam Simpson said that, or there was people that said that at the time. Why is no one putting their hand up for this job? Like, should be paying you $2 million. It's a huge club, so well resourced. Yep, you're going to be put under the hammer by the media. We get all that and the pitfalls and the pressure, but it's not enough. So to answer your question, I do think largely it comes down to dollars.
And a little bit of lifestyle. I mean, it's a shocking existence what they've got. It really is. There's not a lot of joy, not a lot of job satisfaction in these roles. So you have to look at other avenues to help them. Hey, just while you're on that, where's Wally? Where is McWalter? I haven't heard from him. He's the new coach of one of the biggest footy clubs in the land.
Yeah.
Where is he?
He did a bit early days, but
haven't heard from him for 2 months.
Maybe post-Christmas he's been a bit quiet.
Want to hear what's going on.
Spruik the club. I mean,
give us something.
Adam Uze's been a lot more visible, I think, this year. I saw he did Channel 7 during the week, and he's been on with Gary and Tim and quite visible. Some coaches do go to ground in this period.
I don't think you can go to ground when you're
in
at
that
the club
position.
rebuilding and you've got to sell hope and the vision. And I think we need to hear as much as we can from those senior figures at the footy club. And Andrew McLeod, I think, is going to ground.
All right, on my first thoughts is a terrific story. So that's the nice part of this. Francis Evans was signed by the Blues yesterday. His third club. He's been at Geelong. He's been at Port Adelaide. was heading back to Melbourne, was going to play some VFL footy, had an opportunity to train on with the Blues, and they've signed him. So great story. But why'd they get rid of Matt Owies? Is their salary cap that hard up that they gave away Matt Owies pretty much to West Coast, a guy who's kicked 30 plus, to the point where they've had to scramble, absolutely scramble on Feb 20 and sign Francis Evans, who is nowhere near the player Owies is. Like, is their salary cap bursting that hard at Carlton that they've had to save a couple of $100,000 probably on paying Owies versus Evans when Owies is the far superior footballer, Kingy? Far superior footballer.
Yeah.
He's had a.
Where would he rank? Where would Owies rank in the small forwards of the competition?
Well, would
he be in the top 30?
He's the best one at Carlton.
Would he be in the top 30?
Well, how many kick 30 plus? To answer your question, how many small forwards kick 30 plus? I mean,
there are goals and there are goals.
Lockie
you know what I mean?
Schultz didn't kick 30. And what did Collingwood pay to get him? And I think Owies brought everything to Carlton that Schultz brought to Collingwood.
I don't think Owies puts on forward pressure.
Oh, I think he's a fire starter for them. I think he's an important.
Fire starter.
I think he's an important psychological player for the Blues. At times, Carlton been under the pump. Owies has kicked goals. He's given it to the crowd. His teammates.
Would he be in the
him.
top 30 small forwards?
Yep.
He would.
He'd be in the top 30 small forwards, yeah. Would he be in the top 10? No, but he's the best at Carlton. Motlop will be the best small forward at the Blues, but right now, he is the best that they've got, to the point where they've given him away for nothing, really, and they've scrambled and signed Francis Evans, who's had a crack at Geelong, wasn't quite up to it, has had a crack at Port Adelaide, played in their 3 finals last year, and despite the fact that it's a great romantic story, he's a great kid, and I love all of that and the resilience factor behind it, he's not as good as Owies.
Yeah, I'm not as big on Owies.
Yeah,
as
I'm not suggesting Owies is a star, but
you're suggesting he's very good.
I'm suggesting he's better than Francis Evans, and he's Carlton's best small forward, and they've given him away to the point where they're now late February scrambling to sign a small forward when they had one.
Yeah, they had one, and one that they've brought in is probably going to do a similar role.
You think?
If he kicks, yeah, similar. I mean, I don't think they're losing a lot.
Okay.
We disagree on that. It wasn't no surprise we disagree on that.
We do.
Hey, why haven't we changed the rule already? Why haven't we changed the penalty for pushing a player at full speed into a pack with the potential to cause serious injury when we've taken all sorts of steps regarding concussion? We've got our best players at full forward, centre half forward, streaming out to mark the ball, going into a pack of 6, 4, 6, 8 players, and at the moment there's no real sanction for the fullback nudging that player off his balance and having him cascade into a pack.
The Lalor rule, you want to call it?
Well, I think we need to do something. We've talked about this before, but now's the time. Change this before round 1. Get it amended and corrected, because you just can't allow this to be part of our game. It has to be a deterrent in terms of a suspension, not a silly fine or anything like that. You just can't have players in a calculated fashion pushing their opponent into traffic like that.
I agree. I agree with that. If it was that exact example, that's got to be a suspendable offence. And same goes for tunnelling, which we're nowhere near hard enough on. The AFL, it's on their radar, but it's not on their radar strictly enough. Like we could be talking serious neck fractures and things like that. The one with Hipwood on Blakey last year was, I think he ended up with a fine for it. Eric Hipwood. It was just nasty. I would agree with you on that. And it's funny how we're so hard on the tackle and any sort of sling motion in the tackle, but you can just push your opponent full bore into an opponent in a marking contest where he's vulnerable, or tunnel someone and probably get away with a fine.
So this is a pick. I mean, in this instance, it's the best player, the best kid in the land, has played 1 practice match and has already had 1 concussion.
He's got a fractured jaw. Yeah.
But,
and if he gets 2 more concussions, you're going, oh, now we're getting into the territory that's really dangerous. I get you. We had Brad Miller on from Gold Coast last night just before their practice game, and I'm always interested on it. Well, I'm not interested. I was wondering whether my criticism of Matt Rao was too harsh or not. So I asked him, and here's...
Well, no, I think you have been harsh at times, because what we see within the 4 walls is exactly what you're saying, all of his strengths, and he knows full well that there is areas that he needs to get better in. So, yeah, I think at times you've been a little harsh, but I think there's also truth in what you're saying, that he needs to go forward and kick a goal. He needs to be able to run away from packs and also get it on the outside. Because when it's not working inside, he needs to be able to then still inject himself in the game in other ways. So there is truth in what you're saying, but I think sometimes we can undervalue how unbelievable he is in the contest.
And geez, he played well. Last night he played unbelievable well. So the question I had was, who are you hard on at your club? And do you ever reflect on, at times, have you been too hard? 0433 98 11 16. Who is that one player from your club that you have been critical of, that perhaps on reflection you need to appreciate their strengths a little bit more? Because I think there's always a polarising figure at your club that supporters can be hard on, or Kingy, you might have one that you've been hard on over the journey. I think personally we're incredibly hard on Charlie Curnow, and that was probably doing the rounds again this week with Gary Lyon and his thoughts, and you and I have had the Curnow discussion before. But I've
been hard on Brodie Grundy, I reckon.
Have you?
Probably the most critical I've been. But Matty Rowell was a player that I was looking up during the week, and the style of footballer that he is. So he wins some ridiculous percentage of his footy. It's 60%. 60% in a contest. It's the highest of anyone in the league. Just outside of the ruckman. That's just a ridiculous number. So your criticism's right, but he is what he is. He's not going to be able to get easy ball, is he? So if you're going to buy this product, know what you're buying.
Yep. All right, 0433 98 11 16. Who is that player for you? And your final first thought? Kingy, have you got one on the practice games?
Well, I'm confused. Are we taking these games seriously or not? Because I know it all ramps up next week, and I just wonder whether we should even be viewing the absolute initial ones. Should we be just waiting, desperate for footy to start next week? Sometimes the absence is a good thing. I just don't know if we should be seeing as much as what we're seeing. These mock games have been
They're a bit hard to watch. They're a bit hard to watch, and they're a bit hard to take. How much you take out of it, because there's a fresh side, there's a fatigue side, there's a whole completely different lineup. Different clubs have different objectives. So yeah, I'd be okay with just having the one sanctioned practice game, and we view that as of next week. But I guess there's footy fans out there, there's fantasy experts, there's Supercoach players that want a first glimpse of these players that they may select. All right, Kingy, who's in the gun?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm sold on for our friends at Grace Online, the number one auction place in the world.
That's it. Going.
My friends down there at Grace. I'll tell you what I am sold on. I'm sold on life after Jack Riewoldt, Tom Hawkins, Joe Danaher, Charlie Dixon, and on the back of us losing Buddy recently, Tom Lynch coming to the end. I'm sold on this next wave of 22 and under tall forwards. Let me read you the names, and we know about where Thilthorpe's likely to go. We know a lot about Sam Darcy, Tracy. Everyone's talked about Shannon Neal. Put him in the mix. Looked really good last week and looks ready to take over that key forward role down there with aplomb. Amos, everyone's talked about the changing body. Logan Morris last night. This kid's got some special moves. Jed Walter, and you'll say you've been bought by the Suns, but again last night he looks a different size, a different shape.
What are you going to say, Ethan Reid next?
A margarita and a capriccio will get me every time.
It goes a long way.
Caddy is one of the hardest workers in the competition already as a centre-half forward type. And Cadman, they talk about Cadman is really strong coming out of the Giants. So that group there, we're going to have for a decade. So it's just terrific to be able to pass the baton from guys that have been unreal. How many games have you gone to just watch Jack Riewoldt play or Tomahawk or be fascinated by the ups and downs, the absolute ride that Joe Danaher would take you on. And Charlie Dixon, we love the way Charlie plays. We'd hate to play like Charlie, but we love the way he played. So I think we're in great hands having a look at these guys coming through.
All right,
I'm sold.
That's who Kingy's got in the gun, albeit I'm not sure, it was a slightly different version of in the gun, a bit more positive for my liking, for Grays.com, Australia's leading online auction marketplace. Well, I'll bring us down because this is in the gun.
What?
This is in the gun. Hey, I'm telling you that the 4 players picked before Levi Ashcroft would want to be good. So no one bid on this kid until pick 5.
Well, you can't get him. What's the point?
Well, make him pay. Let's stop with the niceties where we're just going to look after Brisbane and just give him to him at pick 5 so they don't have to use their points to bid. So Lalor, O'Sullivan, Jagger Smith, Sid Draper were the 4 that went before him until Melbourne at 5 bid on him. Brisbane matched the bid, then Melbourne go for Harvey Langford. He would want it. They would want to be good. This 4 that have gone in front of him. Because what I've seen last night, Brisbane were absolutely shocked that no one bid on him earlier. They had him 1 or 2, and he's gone at 5, and he's ready to go already. I don't know if he's going to be better than his brother. The talk is that he is, and that's a Norm Smith medalist we're talking about. But enough of the niceties. So who is in the gun for me this morning? Well, and just clubs. For how nice we've become. It's a nice industry. We're looking after player managers. We're letting players go who have got 4 years of a contract left because they want to go home for whatever reason, and we don't keep them to their contract. We've just become far too nice, and I'm calling for some ruthlessness back. If you've got the best player in the draft, bid on them at 1 and make the club pay full price, because this kid's going to be special, and the 4 that have gone in front of him would want to be good. Sold.
But like it. Someone's just asked a question about Jagger Smith. Jagger Smith has that, when Shane Edwards at his best, right, the Richmond Star, he had a happy knack of drawing traffic. Pendlebury does it as well. They hover with the footy, bring the traffic in, thread a handball through to whoever it is on the outside. Doesn't matter if they're an A grader or a C grader. They're in that much clear air. They're away and gone, and you get high quality possession. This kid does the same thing. He hovers, he steps, his lateral movement's unbelievable. I've seen him at Carlton training a couple of times, and you go, wow, pretty special. These kids coming through, they're all ready to go, mate. They're ready to roll.
They're ready to go, and I think that's a newish skill that has come in, that ability. Not newish, but a lot of the midfielders are working on that. I mean, Lachie Neale does it as well as anyone. Just wait for the right time, extra half second, absorb 2 rather than 1, and bang. But all the youngsters are working on that. Grays.com is Australia's leading online marketplace. It's easy to buy and sell with Grays. If you want to put someone in the gun, 1300 736 736. Glenn's in Bendigo. He wants to do just that. And I like where you're going with this one, Glenn. Who's in the gun?
How are you, fellas?
Hey, Glenn.
Good. Yeah, I know it's early days, but after watching last night, I got to say Frampton is really in the gun because, he's struggling big time. And if Reece McGuinness and Charlie Dean and them get up and about and get going, well, I think he'll be playing a fair bit of twos, Frampton.
Yeah, he had a couple kicked on him in about 30 seconds last night from a teenager. But it's just not the role that they got him for. Frampton was brought in for key position depth. He wasn't brought in to be your main key defender. So I'd rather put Darcy Moore in the gun and go, Frampton's only going to be solid if Darcy Moore is great. I think they're just asking him to do too much, Billy Frampton. He wasn't that at Port Adelaide. He's not that at Adelaide. He struggled to find a spot. So, key position depth's fine. Not as your main key lockdown defender.
Doesn't it show you how quickly your list can alter if you lose one critical player? Like Murphy was a critical player to allow Darcy to be the roaming, intercepting player and get a few decisions wrong. When you get a few decisions wrong and you've got a lesser talent next to you, you're gone. I look at Carlton, and it's still the biggest unanswered question at Carlton is who is their centre half back? Who is their second tall defender? And they keep that. We were out there yesterday, not necessarily wine and dined or no, just a coffee. Have a look around, and they're terrific with their access. But I'm looking at them thinking, well, is it Silvani? Look, he's never really been a centre. He's never been a half back, let alone a centre half back.
My man, just be careful what you say about my man.
But he's not a centre half back.
No, well,
he's an undersized player at best.
McGovern is
undersized,
and can't rely on his body probably. And
Nick Haynes
is the same,
undersized. Yeah. So that's my biggest query with Carlton. And God forbid if something happens to Wiedering. Now, we absolutely don't want that to happen, but they just got no stocks. And I was surprised they overlooked your man, DGB, Denver Grange.
Put the flowers out for my man.
It's a sad day.
It's a sad day.
I thought about the black armbands today. I was a little bit emotional yesterday when it come through. You have made some big statements about him in the past.
Yes,
we were touching on a couple of them. One, you said that he will be Hawthorn's next captain.
Yep.
That was a fraction strong.
Yeah, that was a bit early.
And who would you rather take? In January of 2021, you went with Jamara or Denver?
Well, I posed a question. I didn't give my opinion on that.
Oh, you would have
I
given your opinion.
posed a question.
Yeah, I didn't give my opinion. What do you mean?
I posed a question. I posed a
Oh, and you
Twitter
didn't answer
question. No, I put that out to the people, and the people were somewhat split. It was sort of 60-40 at the time.
Hang on.
At the
You
time.
said he was the best player in that draft by some margin.
Yeah,
oh, we had
no,
that
I was
discussion.
I was a big fan. Don't you? Well, I'm not
Have you made
shying away
contact?
from that.
Have you made contact?
What a waste.
Hey, talk to us.
No, I'm flat.
We're here to help you, mate. We're
I'm
here to
flat.
help you.
It's like that. It's like
Purge.
that fuel tablet that all the AFL players got sucked into called Firepower. It was supposed to revolutionise the economy of your fuel tank. So you drop this little tablet into your fuel tank, and you'd get extra
What are you
miles.
talking about?
And all of these AFL players invested in it. It was going to make them rich, and it was the next big thing. Firepower, look it up. They sponsored some NBL teams. They were chucking
they?
money around left, right, and centre. That's what I thought Denver Granger Barras was going to be. I put my house on him. I bought so much stock on him, and this morning I've just realised that it's absolutely worthless. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for is here. It's the Friday agenda for Signet Power, every moment with a Signet Power bank. And if you're just joining us this morning, that moment is the moment where David King rules out some teams from the possibility of winning the premiership. So poor old footy fan driving to work, optimistic about the season, which is about to
still
get
a lot to
underway.
gain.
Kingy's about to burst your bubble.
Still a lot to gain. Still a lot of positives to.
Who can't win it, Kingy?
Well, I think most people that have some sort of common sense would say that West Coast, Richmond and North Melbourne would not be winning the flag in 25. So there's three.
Hang on,
I'll throw...
I'm just going to challenge you as they come to light.
You couldn't challenge me on those three, surely.
Is it
Even you couldn't challenge
completely out of the realms of possibility that North Melbourne could win the premiership this year?
Oh, come on, man.
Well, no, because if we're having this discussion about Hawthorn last year, you would have said the same thing. They lost their first five, and you go, "There's no way."
What sort of guarantee do you want?
No, I'm just challenging
I
you.
will walk from Fireball if either any of those three make the top
I don't know.
four.
You're not walking. You're holding this show up. You can't walk.
St Kilda can't win it. Just not good enough, and just a little bit banged up with injury at the start of the season. And I just don't think they're there yet. They're a couple of years away. Essendon the same for me. The Suns need a year of making finals before they're winning it. And I've got these two. I think will seriously spike, but not be top four necessarily. Melbourne and Adelaide. Adelaide are the one that I'm just reserving Adelaide because of my man Isaac Rankin. I just think that if he goes gangbusters, can bridge the gap. And they're in. So leave Adelaide out of it.
Okay.
The other seven, I say can't win it. What do you say?
Well, have you? Yeah. Well, no, I disagree on Gold Coast. Gold Coast can win it.
Can win it.
Yes, they can win it. I'm not thinking that they're going to do that, but I'm not brave enough to rule them out in February right now because of the amount of talent that is on that list. Like, it's freakish. So I agree.
I think they'll need a year in the 8 to just take that first step.
I can't believe
before they're winning.
You've left Port Adelaide. I was certain you would rule Port Adelaide out.
Well, Horn Francis, Rosie, Butters, if they do go crazy, could have the years that Heaney, Butters and Goulden had in 2024 and make them a chance. I'm not sure they're brilliant forward of the ball nor behind it. I heard you talking about Lalor the other morning. I'm not poo-pooing that, but I'm not necessarily signing up for it either.
No, I would rule Port Adelaide out. I would agree with all of them other than Melbourne. I would leave Melbourne.
You can't. You've been potting them for weeks.
I have been, yeah, but not for reasons that I think that if everything goes to plan that they can't be a possibility of winning the premiership. It's the agenda and there's more on it. I don't expect you to engage with my agenda item this morning because you've been wined and dined by Gold Coast, and this is going to be somewhat critical of just... I didn't see the whole 6 quarters last night or all of the 4 quarters that Gold Coast played, but they're a club that has done too much talking, okay? So I want action over talk, and they know that. Don't be running around trying to intimidate premiership players or first game players and acting like you are these tough guys and giving free kicks off the ball and decking Levi Ashcroft off the ball and giving away undisciplined free kicks, and there was jumper punches, there was skirmishes, there was a lot of angst. You're the Gold Coast Suns, okay? So let's get your footy doing the talking. Let's, when the footy's there, win it. When you're in a winnable position at three-quarter time, go about your business and get the job done. I don't want the Gold Coast tough guys until they're in a position where they've earned the respect to be the tough guys. So they've been wound up this pre-season. They've trained hard. I get it. Everyone's questioning their resilience. And the first opportunity they get, they're running around getting in the face of Lachie Neale. Well, hang on. He's a two-time. He's played pretty well on grand final day. And you're Noah Anderson. Like, let's just rein it back a bit.
He's pretty good, Noah Anderson.
No, he's good, but he's not Lachie Neale.
Pretty good.
He's not Lachie Neale. And
He's a captain.
And it's February, and he's running around with his chest puffed out. Too much talk, not enough action for far too long. Let's see it. Let's get the results before you start sort of puffing your chest out in a practice game against the Premiers in February.
Yeah, I don't understand it in practice matches, for starters. That's a good point you raise. But I do think you have to have a little bit of nasty in you to go anywhere in footy. Just a little bit of nasty somewhere.
There's
and
nasty and there's nasty, though.
Yeah, I understand, but I think that your captain needs to lead the way with a little bit of nasty.
I'm not sure Ben Long decking a first game player off the ball and giving a free kick down is what we want to see from Gold Coast at this point in time.